Hi, all. I'm so happy to see all of you on today. And I know some of us are filtering in as well as we get situated from making that transition from work to home and being part of this. And I thank you all for being part of that. I have some real life things going on here right now. Our snowplow person is here, and every time he backs up, we have like this little alarm that goes off, and he keeps going back and forth. And then my other alarm, she's a four-footed alarm, keeps barking about it. So I apologize if it continues. I'll move to another location, and that's what's going on. But we bring our whole selves and our real lives to this when we're online together, right? So thank you for your patience with that. So I have a slide deck because that's how I'm going to share things, and hopefully I'll be sharing and you can see what my desktop is coming up here, right? Um, Good. So I usually like to start out when I'm with folks, and I'm gonna exit a little bit, going back. And this is, we're gonna connect and explore with our place. And today I'm gonna invite you to connect and explore with my place. So as Zaya said, I'm Sandy Benton. I live in Hortonville, Wisconsin, a little bit south of about 45 minutes south of Lambeau Field and the Green Bay area. And I am on the ancestral homeland of the Menominee people. I acknowledge that fact. And I'd like to lead off with an inquiry routine, and some of you are familiar with that if you've been part of sessions with me at all. It's a routine I work with students and adults as well as I'm using the stems. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. And pinned in the middle of this map, I notice Aldo Leopold Community School has been pinned here, and that is very intentional because that is one of the schools that I've been fortunate enough as a member of Field Adventures to work with them on a grant. And here is the front of Aldo Leopold if you were to come up to the door on Eliza Street there in Green Bay. And I'm just going to put that aside a little bit. And I'm going to share a little bit that Aldo Leopold is right along the banks of the Fox River. And the Fox River flows northward into the Bay of Green Bay. And um, that has just been designated as a national estuarian research region because Green Bay is the world's largest freshwater estuary in the world. It is a place where, when we think of estuary, that little birds and small critters begin their lives in these wetland regions, right? So what I'd like you to do is, with that little bit of information there, thinking about what do you notice from this view from Google Maps? What do you notice? So I notice that there seems to be a lot of city landscape, a lot of roads around the area. You're free to use the chat. You're free to unmute yourselves. What do you notice?
I noticed that there might be a riparian buffer around the estuary. It looks like, at least on the map, it could be completely different once you're there, but
Okay, so what makes you think it might be that?
just the
Like what
kind
are
of green, yeah, border around.
okay. the green bordering, you notice that? Okay. Anything else like you notice? Or perhaps we could lead into you observe something and the observation makes you wonder. So I wonder, is that green, is that plant material?
I wonder about I'm sorry it's late coming in, but I'm wondering about this waters, what it's like, the body of water, and how close that is to the Aldo Leopold Community School, and if they're able to use it, that the water source.
All right, so if they do that, or if they can walk there. Heather's wondering if the river is flowing out or into that lake or that body of water. All right. Now I'll add one other bit of detail to this. This estuary is also been designated as an area of concern. So it had been a Superfund site, and it's no longer listed at that, but it is an area of concern in terms of risk to human health, to wildlife, and to water quality. And Melissa is wondering how much the urban community has affected that estuary. Okay. And this is something that I did with Aldo Leopold School, and we did take a look and from the map, and then we zoomed in even more closely. And got a better view, and even jumped into the map with our pin here, get a street view. And if we leave the school, I need to go the other direction, sorry about that. There's a little side street we're going to want to catch down here. A little further. Get to the corner. There we go. And we head down to the river. We're taking the sidewalks down there. A little bit further on. Oh yeah. One more street. Sorry about that. Hope you're not getting. Now, this is what I like you to see. And Frank had been wondering what the green areas in the map are next to the blue areas. So you might be noticing across the riverway, I noticed there are some large black piles here. And I'm wondering what those are. And I'm also wondering if the black substance, if it is impacted by some rainwater. And these are, so with Aldo Leopold School, we did a little bit of previewing through Google Maps. It's a great way to explore your community in advance of a field experience, or maybe as a follow-up to zoom out and see what's going on a little bit further away from your school site to see like how things are connected. And then we actually walked down to this park here, and we did some observing of what's going on, what we saw in the river, what we saw near the water's edge, the kind of wildlife that we saw there. So that led up to another study that I'll be talking about in just a few minutes. So this is part of the I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. Didn't quite get to the it reminds me of. So those Big piles kind of remind me of like sand piles or snow piles, things that are put in reserve for use later in industry or for road purposes. So one of the things, bringing us back to Field Adventures. So Field Adventures is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to engage the rock skipping, frog catching spirit. And that's not just in the students, we want to do that too, but it's also in the teachers and the educators that are working with the students. So I'm one of the team here. We've got some talented people on our board and our team that regularly bring professional learning to teachers and sometimes into the schools as well. And my name is Sandy Benton. I'm a spouse, a parent, a grandmother of 4 boys, and I'm also a dog mom. My passions are gardening. I'm a beginning sourdough baker. I'm a novice beekeeper, and you see me here in my bee suit this spring. I captured a swarm and kept that swarm in a hive all summer and collected about 60 pounds of honey from that swarm hive. So pretty excited about that. I am a Field Adventures educator and have been doing that for almost 8 years now. And I'm a longtime teacher, classroom teacher of students in grades 3 through 5. And with Field Adventures, we do professional learning workshops like the ones we do here. Sometimes we might do a workshop related to Project Wet or Project Wild, nature journaling, some things really customized to your school site. Might also do longer term co-teaching with teachers and their students at the class site. So it's very customizable, and our focus is on relevant place-based content as a springboard for Field Adventures. We also bring environmental education for kids, our website to you, and we can provide lots of technical assistance and support, curriculum development, or at least point you in the right direction. If we can't help you out, we can probably lead you to someone who does. So today I want to talk about how to bring that. I'm going to provide you with a toolkit. So you all are going to get a freebie takeaway at the end of this, and how to bring some environmental education back to your site, or if you are looking for ideas to engage with schools. And frequently what we see is in package programs, in science textbooks, online AV video kinds of things, that students and their teachers are introduced to these really flashy species, right? And kids and adults, we care about things that we know, right? And frequently, because of what's put in front of students, they know a lot about humpback whales, polar bears, poison dart frogs, and even things that are no longer alive, that have long been extinct, like the T-Rex here. Kids can become very expert on that, because that's what's available and that's what they know, and they can become very impassioned and care about that. The problem is the kids don't have a lot of agency to really see the impact of their learning as well as their actions on these really cool critters. So what I'm proposing is focusing more on and finding out, maybe you don't know about them yet, the critters and the species that live near them. Okay, so those of you that live near the Fox and the Wolf River water system, you may be familiar with the lake sturgeon. This is the largest inland fish species of lake sturgeon that do not need any help in navigating and going back to their spawning grounds every year. So along the Wolf River, they winter in or live in the Lake Winnebago system. Last weekend was the big sturgeon spearing weekend of the year. So finding out about these species can help kids find ways to connect with their own actions on land in places like Green Bay, Appleton, New London, those waterways, that watershed. What I do here makes a difference for these outstanding over 100-year-old fish that are cruising up and down the river. We've got the brown brook trout here. We've got streams in Wisconsin that are trout streams, and there's a lot of pressure on them right now that the springs that feed these trout streams are imperiled because of water drops and pollutants. They're very sensitive. We can find things for kids to become interested and actionable. We've got the Blanchard's tree frog, which is an endangered frog species in Wisconsin. And of course, the monarch butterfly, which is potentially going to be listed as on the endangered species list. It's critically threatened. And we'll talk about, so we can find these species that we can find out about, and we can do something as students, as teachers in our school communities to learn about them, to learn about habitats, to do something about. Other times, might not be a critter, might be a species or a situation that presents itself very conspicuously. So you may notice under the water, this is Appleton, really close to a school that I worked with, Fox River Academy on the Fox River. We had a second 100-year rain event in one summer in which the water rose in areas of the town, and you can see from the marker here, and it's over the 4-foot marking here, and that car is floating in that storm water. That can lead to opportunities for kids to learn about, okay, why is this, like, what's going on here? What's the shape of the land? Why is it pooling here and not going someplace else? Well, turns out that this very roadway that the students from Fox River Academy, these are first and second graders that visited. We went in the winter and we were learning how water behaves and moves across these paved surfaces. And we took some squirt bottles out there and we're spraying Kool-Aid and watching how the water moves and how the Kool-Aid, the powdered drink mix would move, be carried right along with that water, right down into that bowl-shaped area underneath that bridge where you saw the picture from earlier in the summer. And we further investigated, okay, so we know that the road surface is a hard surface and the water is going to move across it. Okay, what about some of these other surfaces? Well, we sprayed Kool-Aid and water in the snow and that kind of penetrated. We sprayed water and Kool-Aid on some of this mowed landscape here and found that it didn't soak in like it would in the summer. In fact, it also ran off. So then that got students thinking about how these impervious surfaces there's even more impervious surface in the winter because those areas like the ground cover, the soil is frozen, so it will act with very short vegetation on it, much like a roadway. So then that led to a road salt investigation, and the kids started, they actually devised some traps where they put collection devices into the storm drains, and they collected storm water and found like how much diluted road salt was suspended in that material. And that then led to a project where they talked to the school district about how to minimize the use of road salt, and also painted artistic murals around the outside of some storm drains to educate the public. Other ideas. So that's something that can be done in a very urban setting where maybe there's not a lot of vegetation and things for gardening areas. Sometimes issues are uncovered. This is actually my class of middle schoolers when I taught at Fox River Academy in Appleton. There was a kind of a pocket ravine park that was not used. It's part of the park system, but it's an area that wasn't really maintained or managed by the city. And there was a persistent problem of people vandalizing, starting fires, some encampments of, I wouldn't say people staying there overnight necessarily, but partying and leaving trash and other undesirable articles behind. Neighbors weren't happy with it. And it had been a former dump, city dump. And so it was neglected. People would just kind of tip their yard waste into there. And this group of students learned that, oh, this is something they wanted to take on, make it a natural area for the community to enjoy and have trails going through it, and also kind of have more people present and to avoid just to make it more traffic through there and less likelihood for the vandals to be present. Going back to the first example that I gave, when we were looking at the estuary area and the Fox River where it drains into the Bay of Green Bay, the teacher, Denise McFarland, who is at Aldo Leopold School, she had a strong interest in the study of microplastics. And through her students were also very interested in that. And a lot of what she'd been reading and the kids have been hearing about are microplastics in the ocean. So we were wondering, is that problematic in the Great Lakes? And we found out that yes, indeed, it is a problem. And because of the shape of the basin of Lake Michigan, it can be an accumulating, persistent problem where any pollution that ends up in Lake Michigan is going to be there for years and years to come. So as the kids learned about this, they also learned about this little bird. There are only about 70 nesting pairs of this threatened species, the piping plover. And it has been successfully nesting out in the Cat Island chain, which is a human-made chain of islands out in the Bay of Green Bay. But this bird has been very successful and adapted to actually nesting, and we're hoping that we'll be able to regrow and promote the conservation of this bird. And as part of their service project, the all of the students in 3rd and 4th grade, they went to Neshota Beach, which is in Kewanee, or it's in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, rather. And they did a beach cleanup, and students used like kitty litter scoops and took a section of the beach, collected, and found that fortunately there wasn't a lot of trash that day, but the things that they did find were a lot of things related to people's eating habits, as well as smoking, a lot of cigarette butts that had been found out there as well. So these projects, a lot of times it's just getting outside of your school and taking a look at what's there, zooming in on a map. Other times it might be doing some assessment. So this is what I'm going to give to you as an assessment. I took things that I thought most school sites I found have available. And those, and is my doc going to come up? We'll see if it will or not. What's it asking me to do here? To make a copy? All right, I will do that. Make a copy. So that's what you'll do too when you get it. And then you can make it your own. So I've got a tree benefits calculator. Most schools have at least one tree. If it's not on the school property, it's on the boulevard. And if it's not there, you can probably take a class walking trip. This is a tool. It's an online tool. It's a calculator from the National Arbor Day Foundation. And what you can find out here is you can find out the value of your tree, and it will show you, well, I wish if we were to go to the calculator, it'll give you kind of what looks like a nutrition label, but it'll be based on your tree, the species, and the diameter. And it'll calculate how much carbon it'll sequester, how much rainfall it'll absorb and keep from going up, into the waterways. It'll also tell you like how much oxygen it'll produce and how much CO2 it'll offset. It's really cool little tool there. Another tool that, oops, I'm sorry about that, that I would like you to, that we can go back to is, well, I won't go into all of them, but I'll talk about them here. Benefits of trees to birds in terms of, does it draw caterpillars to its leaves? Is it one that'll bring insects in? Does it provide like nectar to species like hummingbirds? So it's kind of a cool thing that if you're thinking about planting a tree or just thinking about the trees on the school property or nearby, check that out. I've got a huge collection of bird resources. We're going to have a speaker in a few weeks for the Schoolyard series who is an expert on birds. I'm not going to get into it too heavily, but do check that out. One of the things that I really liked in this collection is the Project Feeder Watch has food preferences for common birds that you can put in your zip code, the bird species that you're likely to see, spring, summer, winter, fall, and what they like to eat. So that if you wanted to do a project like that with kiddos, bringing them in closer to you with a bird feeding station, great way to learn. Pollinators, we saw the monarch butterfly. I have a habitat assessment here that you can take this out around your school grounds or in your neighborhood and actually assess like how friendly is your habitat, and if it's, what could you do to enhance it? And then finally, one for invertebrates and herpafauna, amphibians and reptiles. I've got a tutorial on cover boards and also a data collections sheet that I have created, and you're welcome to use it. So collecting that data, becoming interested, and then like going to what are those connections to the Green and Healthy School Survey, right? How can we reduce our energy consumption? And where are we getting our power from more sustainably? What can we do to minimize waste and refuse, reuse, and recycle? Transportation practices, our water conservation, and how can these kids become civically engaged on these issues so that maybe they want to plant a prairie like the kids at Maple Grove Charter School have done here with a local expert. Or maybe they want to talk to their school board about bus idling and projects like that, so that we'll leverage the kids' interest in critters or an issue or what the teacher's passionate about to then find that way to teach them about these environmental topics and then move them to making that their school and their school site very green and healthy. And I'll take questions later, but I really want to like highlight Leap Elementary, one of our school partners, and what they're doing in terms of being green and healthy at Leap Elementary. So with us is Melissa Prokaska, and I'll turn it over to Melissa.
All right, sorry I got on here late. Well, I stayed here too at school where our internet isn't so great because I have 2 dogs at home and they would have been barking at the squirrels, so. Um, well, I have a slideshow for you. Are you sharing it, Sandy? Uh-oh, I don't hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
I can do it.
I was supposed to be here with my colleague Lisa, but she has been down and out with RSV, bronchitis, or bronchiolitis and pneumonia all at the same time. So it's been a crazy week here. So I'm sorry if I talk too much. You'll see this is I am an elementary school teacher at heart. That's where all my experience has been. You'll probably notice that from the slideshow. But Lisa and I are at Leap Elementary, and can you go to the next slide, or do I?
Sure.
Okay. And just to tell you really quickly, Leap starting point. Leap used to be Lebanon Elementary. It's a very small school in the country outside of Watertown School District. At our max, we probably can have 70 kids out here. So it's always been on the chopping block because it's a smaller school. And so after a thorough rally back and forth between the parents out here, and I was not a teacher out here at this time, our school district decided in February 2020 to give Lebanon Elementary School 5 years to see if we could increase enrollment, and they decided to make us an agricultural and environmentally focused elementary school. So I can't really tell you much in between here in February 2020, and I have these pictures up here on purpose because when I started in 2022, which I have to tell you, I'd been in the district my whole life. I was ready to leave teaching. I was done, but I thought I was gonna, you know what? I love the environment. I'm gonna try this school. And so when I came out here, the 2 things that really had been done, and I'm not blaming this on anyone, we had COVID and there was a change in administration, but the 2 things that had changed since they became an environmental school was we had a fish tank and the sign changed. There wasn't much that had happened. But this was kind of a description in Sandy's for this workshop. Are you interested in providing meaningful learning experiences but not sure where to start? And that was me in a nutshell. Like, I love the environment, but my experience is I love the environment. So I wasn't sure how to put that into my teaching when I started. So following these slides, it's more of a slideshow that we gave to our school board this past summer, showing them what we've done in a short amount of time. But that can maybe help you see, well, I know a lot of you on here are veterans because I've seen you in other workshops, but how we've kind of worked our way around things. So our 5 big learning things that we've taken away in the past few years are on the next slide. And peers, parents, and professionals. We got a lot of help from fellow teachers, from the family in our school, and then I was very fortunate. Sandy's niece is in our school. So Sandy's sister reached out to me and said, "Hey, I can put you in touch with my sister-in-law. She does a lot of this stuff," which Sandy helped help me get started out here on small things we could do. And then she came out and worked with our staff. So that was huge. Beg, borrow, and steal was a big one. I told some people earlier this week that I had heard about Sages and I drove there on a weekend to take pictures and get ideas and motivation from them. And I happened to run into staff that gave me a tour. So just getting ideas from other people and putting it into place at our school. The grants. One of our biggest projects here was a grant through the National Resource Foundation in Wisconsin. Different groups that we were part of, that we networked with in Watertown, the Watertown Garden Project. We have an educational foundation. And I'll go through this when I show you the slides, but we had very little funding, if much at all, from our own school district. So we really had to work to network with other people to get what we needed out here. The next one is just kind of funny, erosion, not just for rocks, because there were a lot of people who kept telling us no all the time, and we just wore them down, email after email after email, asking for things. And then our biggest takeaway is ask for forgiveness, not permission, because a lot of people don't like a lot of the ideas. And then when we made them happen, they're okay with them. It was a success. So there was a lot of pessimism about ideas we had, but they're huge successes out here now. So you'll see a lot of what I just referred to in the rest of the slideshow. Because our biggest concerns out here were lack of time. We have pacing guides for everything. Lack of resources. We really don't have any funding from the district. And we had to prove ourselves too, because we were supposed to raise enrollment and do so much, or they would close the school. So I can just kind of talk you through the rest of the slides and give you some ideas how we made these things work. Do you want to go to the next slide? So this one was our first big project. We had that grant through the National Resource Foundation. And I think, I mean, our district was huge on, wow, that's really big. But now that was when we, I think a couple years ago, and we use it so much for learning. We got the grant for the plants, the plugs. We had a community landscaper that donated the time to grade it and cut the sod and donated screened topsoil. We had parents who donated the mulch and the stone pathways. But we use that as an outdoor classroom. And so when Sandy was talking about noticing things in our own spaces, we've gone out there and found all different kinds of pollinators. I had brought some decomposing logs to put out there. We've done microhabitats. We've done seed collection, many different things out in that pollinator garden. But that was one of our biggest starting projects there. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, and you can notice up in the corner, you don't have to go back, but when the kids were planting it, we always try to use that environmental, like they use the milk jugs to rinse out and use to water their plants. And we use those milk curtains later on again, because we partner with the Watertown Garden Project, and that's what they plant the seeds in. And then there's a plant swap in Watertown. So we try to get it's good for us for publicity, but also it gets the kids invested in doing things with the community. We do have an outdoor classroom that the kids use. It's not super complex or anything, but it gets us outside. We're adding a shade structure this spring. we were going to go with a big grain bin around it for the kids, but because our school is in danger of being closed, we decided not to use that much of an expense. But I think you're going to see in future slides, Sandy took us out there too, and we measured the temperatures around the school, and we did some mapping of the schoolyard then with the various temperatures. You can go to the next slide. We also, in the back of our school, and this, I always love to say everything doesn't work out perfect here. So this was our best season. We grew enough pumpkins for each of the students to have them. They plant the garden from seed every spring together. We're fortunate to have a parent who's a fire chief, so they watch the control burn, they learn about that. But you know, this past summer, we didn't grow any pumpkins. Nothing worked. And so that's a learning experience with the kids too. Why didn't it work? Why do you think the pumpkins didn't grow? What happened? So we do a lot of learning. I have the kids measure perimeter. We're doing perimeter in area right now. It was recommended we get manure for it. So they measured it. So we know how much manure to spread over the top of the garden. So there's simple ways to do math out there. They plot the garden, they budget the seeds, what they'll cost. We do a lot of seed harvesting too. We'll save some of the seeds and reuse them. Next to that, and I think we'll maybe see that in another, well, you'll see it on another slide, what we do with our surplus pumpkins, but we also have a native prairie out there. So if you want to go to the next slide. It's not on this one, but that's okay. We also, and this is an example of just do it, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. We hatched eggs. And we did have a little chicken coop, but because they were free range, but we had a neighbor who we want to stay good neighbors with. She was pregnant and wanted to make her own baby food, and our chickens were eating from her garden. So we have luckily another parent who donated that chicken run. And this is really benefiting us right now, the eggs, but the kids they go and get the eggs, they take care of the chickens. It's been very, the animal companions, and you'll see them throughout the slides, have been very good for our kids here, especially our kids that have social emotional learning needs. You know, we have another school in the district that has a therapy dog. We have I call it an emotional support bearded dragon because when one of my students has that bearded dragon, he's listening and on task, and the kids will help. We've had the chickens in the classroom when they were free range, they would follow the kindergarten class in. You know, the kids have learned how to behave around them. We also, I'm trying to think, ways to make up with the funding. I think I shared this on another session that Sandy had. We don't have funding to get all these things. So we had a baby chick shower and we announced it to the parents, and they donated things through our baby shower for our chickens before they hatched. And that's how we got those materials. Now we use the eggs. Somebody asked how much for eggs. We were doing $5 a dozen before the price went up, but I'll tell you, we're just constantly trying to raise funds out here. So this week we're doing, instead of the Super Bowl, we did the Super Fowl, and for $5, they can donate a chance to win a dozen eggs. So we'll choose a winner tomorrow, and you know, we might do that the next couple weeks. Obviously, our chickens didn't lay a lot over the winter, but it's just a way to get the eggs out there. We've donated them to the rest of the school and the community to get our name out there for like veterans breakfast. We've sold them. We've done 2 hatches now. Kept all of them but roosters. We don't have the roosters here. I'm trying to think what else. There was something else I wanted to share about the chickens, but it's been a really good learning experience. They're here year round now. You also see the raised garden beds. The kids learn from those. Again, they budget, they pick the seeds from the seed catalogs. We see when they grow. We try to pick things that grow while they'll be at school. We got a composter in the past year, and the kids, I didn't want them just to say, hey, here's our school lunch, we're going to compost it. I wanted them to understand what was happening. So we had some scraps and put them in plastic bags and hung them on our windows. And you can see from those bags, not only did things decompose, but we actually grew from the seeds that were in there from the decomposing vegetables or whatever we had. We have apple trees this year or a couple years ago that the kids built. So we have all different learning opportunities around here. Most of these things were all donated by different organizations. If you want to go to the next slide. This is what I wanted to say about the chickens. So we did do, you know, where does your food come from? We had some grocery store eggs. We had some eggs from our own chickens at school. We cracked them open. We compared them, what we noticed, what we wondered. We cooked them together and had different scrambled eggs. It was very interesting. Some of the kids said they never ever wanted to have any store-bought eggs anymore. They just wanted eggs from Leaf. But we do different hokey things just to make sure people know it's not just about snuggling chickens at school. We do learn from them. So when our own homegrown hen here turned 1, we had a big birthday party, but then the whole day was focused on what we've learned from our chickens. And we had a birthday party for, I'm trying to see here. This was something else. And I think with the little girl with the anchor chart, again, learning through the chickens, we investigated and researched what plants were beneficial for chickens when we decided we had to have the run and they couldn't be free range anymore. So we looked for different vegetables and herbs that would be beneficial. We kind of looked for the most popular ones because they all, or what they had in common the most, and we planted those around the run. So they had a whole herb garden next to the chicken run and some of their vegetables that we could feed them with. You can go to the next slide. The middle one is kind of how we got started. We did some ideas on our own, but it really was beneficial to have Sandy here coaching us to realize, like, you know, we can go outside, we can do these things. I believe the picture in the middle was when we were doing the temperature around the school. And then we did plot that into a map. Other times we just do fun things like this. There's a picture here of a good snowstorm, and we practiced area and perimeter building snow forts. And we practiced, you know, we have I can't remember what it's called, patterns of power. And so when we were doing comparatives and superlatives, we did snowmen with big, bigger, biggest, and practice things like that outside. We've also practiced grammar outside. I think we were doing proper nouns and common nouns, and we looked for things in nature where we could find a common noun and then go find a proper noun of it. So we didn't have to just sit inside and use something. We took pictures around the schoolyard too, so kids could identify native plants or things that are growing in our schoolyard. And so we have a lot of activities for kids to do at recess. If they don't want to play Foursquare, they have options to go outside, and this one was a scavenger hunt for plants in our schoolyard. We recently got another grant too, and I like to borrow and steal ideas. So when we were at Horicon Marsh this summer and I saw their little backpacks with things in for kids to use, we have a bunch of backpacks here now with binoculars and magnifying glasses and different books and things for them to identify bugs or birds or things like that. But a lot to get out into our very own schoolyard and explore it and learn from it. You can go to the next slide. Here is just, we do have a grow tower. Really, I would have to be honest and tell you that most of our successful growing comes from our own gardens. The grow tower just does not do that well here. Although we do have a fish tank too that grows vegetables on top of it. That's a little better. You can see whatever we grow, we have the kids sample here. After we did our pollinator garden, the picture at the top, the kids practiced fractions and arrays and they painted pavers for them. Some of our leftover pumpkins, the kids make globes out of that every year and learn latitude and longitude, and they do the continents on them. And I believe just collecting seeds and harvesting them here trying to figure out a way that we can do hands-on. The kids were counting seeds and doing it by making groups of 10 or making arrays. If it depended what size the seeds were and what age the kids were. But that's another thing we repurposed. We collected empty pill bottles cleaned out from the parents, and we put labels for our school on it with seeds on. And then we have a free seed library at our public library. So that way it gets our school out there as well, and they get free seeds from our school. You can go to the next slide. That's the garden project that we partner with and our little milk carton plants that we donate to the community. We do try to do a lot of service to the community because we like to and because it looks good for us, since we're always wondering about our existence in the future. But so we've donated money to the Humane Society. We have had a little plant shop here in Watertown, and they came and built succulent planters with our kids for World Kindness Day, and we donated them to some of our volunteers around here. And the businesses do give back because, as you can see in the top corner, when we thought we were going to have to cut all the side for our pollinator garden, we did have an organization that said, "Oh, we'll do that for you. We'll come out and we'll do that." So that was amazing. Can you go to the next slide? And some more, some of these are our family members putting things together for our school, but the two on the side, I don't know if it's because we're a small school or because we all feel so strongly about what we do here with the environment. But when we put that chicken run together, which needed to be predator wrapped, it was not a fun thing. That picture is of parents. We had a day, for parents to come out here after school. We worked from after school until 9 at night doing the chicken run, which was donated by a parent, and we did landscaping, did mulch, we weeded, we did we have school maintenance that mows the lawn, but we all believe in the school so strongly that we take care of it, and it's taken care of by our school families and staff. So it's a real neat family feeling. And I think that comes from us embracing that environmental piece, and making things happen here. We all want it to shine. You can go to the next slide. More, with our environmental piece, one of the things we tried one year, there were people wanted it, but it didn't do as well as I thought, but they were just pieces I thought really lent themselves well to our environmental focus and our mission and value out here. So we did a winter kids clothing swap. It wasn't based on need or anything. We just thought it's better to reuse clothes. So we gathered it, and it was available for all of our school families. Instead of buying new, use things that were gently used. And we can't have book fairs here because we don't make a big enough profit. So what we did was we also asked for book donations of gently used books, and we had our own book fair. It was a used book fair. It was green. So we do try to put that into everything we do here. I know I'm running out of time. I just looked at it. So you can go to the next slide. And that's some of our surplus of our pumpkins. We do have a little, we call it the Leap, Learn, and Earn produce cart. So the kids, sometimes when we have more time, we'll keep track of, supply and demand, how much we're making. It depends how much we've got going on, but that's a popular little thing we have in summer and in fall. And you can see here's the baby chick shower. So we just try to make things interesting for people to want to donate and do more. This year, I don't think I have it on here, but because we have the 9 chickens, a bearded dragon, a ball python, 2 rabbits, a rat, and we made a calendar. We took pictures and we sold calendars of our Leap animal companions, and that was really popular too. You can go to the next slide. This was a great opportunity. Sandy's gotten us, and so I love the Green and Healthy Schools, all the different workshops, because we don't get a lot of that time for that with our own school. So taking part in these has been really great for us to get ideas what to do with our kids and how to use our awesome schoolyard for place-based learning. I love this apple one that we did, the apple earth, how much of it is usable. That's a favorite. And you can go to the next slide. And when we ended our school board, this was our last slide. So what? And we just wanted to remind them that we have pacing guides and we have things that we do need to do here, but using hands-on fun, our place to learn from outside, look at the joy. You can't deny that. I mean, these kids love getting their hands dirty and everything that we do here. And I love the little picture in the corner too. That was an incoming, she was going to be a kindergartner the following year. That was for an open house. And the first thing she grabbed onto was our snake. You know, the parents are scared of them, but so they really learn to embrace the ones that aren't always loved here and get their hands dirty and learn from nature. And we love it. I mean, there were a lot of obstacles, the money, the time, the pacing guides, but we've made it work here. And in 3 years, we're really proud of what we've done. I think that, oh, we have a closing slide. I think that's my little shout out to Sandy's niece. And I don't think you can see it here, but I love watching her on the playground because if you look really carefully, there's a monarch butterfly and she sits and was watching it at recess. And sometimes it's just the quiet things like that that make you feel like we're doing a good job here.